And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mr. Callan here to help you with Chapter 4, Lesson 4, Subtracting Integers. Let's first pause, take a look at Assignment 30, check your answers. Please mark things wrong. Put little question marks next to it. Bring some questions to your next class. Pause, and when you're ready, come on back. Now, it might seem natural that we've been working with adding integers, so today we're going to subtract integers, all while moving upwards and onwards toward equations, one-step, two-step, and multi-step equations, with positive and negative integers. Eventually, we'll have positive and negative decimals. We'll have positive and negative fractions and mixed numbers. But first, let's just make sure that we understand what stuff like this looks like. Now, I'm going to go through a series of notes, ladies and gents. First, let's go ahead and pause the video, title your homework paper, but I'm going to give you a notes paper later. Actually, I'll have you work that out at home if you wish, or I'll print something off when you come back. So this is only for homework. Pause, come on back when you're ready. I will explain what the red word means, show rewrite, in a moment. But as previously mentioned, I'm going to give you a notes paper. Now, maybe what you want to do is split your screen right now, put the video on one side, and open up your notes page, your electronic notes page. If you don't like it, you're welcome to write it on a scratch piece of paper, or I can get you a printed piece of paper the next time I see you in class. So do whatever you think is best for you. But at this time, you might want to pause, get your screen split, and get that notes out that I will put on Google Classroom. Now let's go ahead and find the difference between these two integers. Notice the first example at the top, there is no symbol in front of the 7. That naturally will mean positive. So I'm going to draw that to the right. And I try to squeeze in the number often. I don't know if you have to or not. Meanwhile, we then are going to subtract 2. Now, as you can imagine, that means a decrease of 2, which, by the way, we could simply rewrite as adding a negative 2. In this case, 7 holes, take away 2 holes is 5 holes. You do not need to write the positive. You may if you wish. Going on to number 2, example 2, starts with positive 2. Then we are asked to subtract 5. Now, as you can imagine, subtraction means you are losing money. Interestingly enough, we go past 0. In other words, if you're thinking about money, we're losing money, we're getting into debt. If you're thinking about swimming, you're going underwater. Now 2 subtract 5 could be rewritten as 2 and a negative 5. Either way, you're going to have a final answer in the negatives with negative 3. Last example, notice that 0 is neither positive nor is it negative, one of the only numbers in existence. I don't even know if there are any other numbers that have no sign. Meanwhile, if we subtract 6, if you start at sea level and then you go down 6, I wish I would have had a vertical number line here for you. If you start with $0 and then lose $6, you are going to end up in the negatives at negative 6. And again, 0 subtracting 6, the same as adding $6 of debt. Please notice, 7 minus 2, 7 plus a negative 2. Both have a sum or a difference of 5. 2 minus 5, 2 plus a negative 5, ends up at negative 3. 0 minus 6, 0 plus a negative 6, have the same answer. I want you to continue keeping that thought in your head as we go to these next examples. In this case, we start off with negative 5, which goes to the left, or decreasing. Then we subtract 3. Now that's hard. If you have no money, how do you subtract money? Well, you get deeper in debt for a final answer of negative 8. The key here being that subtracting 3, the same as adding a negative 3, getting us deeper underwater or deeper in debt. Now this next one could be one of the tougher ones. All right, so we begin with positive 2. Now what? Now you might be tempted to say, hey, Mr. Callan, check this out. It's a negative 4, so you better go to the left. While that would be true if it were just a negative 4, here we are subtracting a negative 4. So which direction will this go? In an increasing or decreasing direction? Now, some people, if I could use a little disappearing ink here, nope, guess I'm not going to. Some people like to change this into saying, look, you take away all the debt that you want. If you take away debt, my money is increasing 1, 2, 3, and 4. For a final answer, for positive sales. Now, if you look at the previous examples, minus 3 changes to plus or negative 3. But minus 4, subtracting 4, changes into adding a positive 4. That's interesting. So what is the essential rule for subtracting integers? Well, here it is, if you haven't figured it out already. The essential rule is to try to rewrite it. In fact, I'm going to ask you to rewrite it to keep the first number and then add the opposite of the second. So the opposite of subtract a positive 3 is to add a negative 3. The opposite of a negative 4 is to add positive 4. Again, they mean the same thing. But think about this. Haley owed $200 on her credit card. She made another purchase of $20. How much does she have now? Wow, that's not really the best grammar. Sorry about that. Period. Capitalization. All right. How much does she now owe? You could simply rewrite this as adding. And what's the opposite of positive $20? A negative $20. Either way, we're going to be deeper in debt at a negative 200, and if Mr. Callan could pay attention and count, negative 220. So, some steps to follow. Keep that first number. The number doesn't change. We still start in debt. But how else could we think about subtracting a number? We could think about changing the subtraction sign to a positive or a plus sign, and then use the opposite of the second number. In this case, the opposite of positive 20 is negative 20. And if you think about it, taking away $20, that's the same thing as adding debt. If you take away $20, my bank account goes down. If you add $20 of debt, my bank account goes down. Different ways of representing the same thing. Just as you guys call me Mr. Callan, some people call me Uncle Tim, but I'm the same guy, just two different ways of representing my name. So let's take a look at a few examples here. Negative 12 subtracting 15. Well, we can change subtraction into an addition sign, and then change what is the additive inverse or the opposite of 15? Well, that would be a negative 15, which then will leave us with negative 12, go deeper down 15. We are deeper in debt, or deeper underwater if you count another dive deeper. Next example, 10 subtract negative 90. Well, let's change the subtraction to addition, and we're going to add the additive inverse. What is the opposite of negative 90? Well, that would be positive 90. Therefore, 10 subtracting negative 90 increases and goes up. Hey, take away all of the debt you want. I'm happy if you take away debt because my bank account increases. 25 minus 34, change it to adding the opposite. Now, in this case, we are going to be underwater. 25 steps up the ladder, we dive down, we dive down, we dive down. Final answer will be negative 9 feet below. And how about this one, negative 100? Let's change subtraction into adding. The additive inverse of 37 is a negative 37. Now we are diving deeper underwater, so we get negative 137. Now pause if you need. You're welcome to rewind if you like. Let's keep on keeping on. Actually, I'm going to ask you to pause. Try to do these on your own and come on back when you're ready. So I'm going to change negative 6 subtract 7 into adding. The opposite of positive 7 is negative 7. Final answer here of negative 13. 7 subtract 15. Let's go ahead and do it again. Let's change subtraction to adding, and the opposite of a positive 15 is a negative 15. Final answer will be below water at -8. Now I have to be especially careful with these next two problems. This is my weakness. I can do it. We all can hammer our weaknesses, but we just got to go a little slower. Change subtraction into adding, and the additive inverse of -3 is +3. Therefore, like you're scuba diving down, you go 8 feet down, and somebody calls you on your scuba diving radio and says, hey, you went too far down. Please take away some of that dive. All right, you take away a dive, you're going up. Now we're still underwater, but we're not as deep underwater. We're closer to sea level. Number 4, 10 subtract a -18. Again, I need to go a little slower here. That 10 is a positive. I don't change that 10, but I change that to adding. And what is the additive inverse of -18? Boom, +18. Therefore, I have $10, and then somebody takes away some debt. Oh, sweet. So instead of having $10, I have $28 in my bank account. Let's go ahead and complete the following examples. I think this is all I have after that. You can start your homework up. B subtract 10, where B is -8, subtract 10, and I'm going to rewrite this as -8. Let's change subtraction into adding, and the opposite of +10 is -10. Didn't leave myself enough space here, so I'm sorry. I'm just going to go to the right. Deeper underwater at -18 feet. Example 2, A subtract B, where A is 5, subtracting B, which is a -8. In this case, let's change subtraction into adding, the opposite. In other words, take away some of that dive, you're actually climbing farther up the ladder, and you're now 13 feet above the pool before you dive in. Example 3, where we have C, which is -9, subtract A, which is 5. Now, wait a second. Let's go ahead and change that into adding, and the opposite or additive inverse of +5 will be -5. We are now deeper in debt at -$14. That, ladies and gents, is your introduction to subtracting integers. I don't know about you, but I think this is a little tougher than adding. So I do want you to take your time, please. Go ahead and do the following problem. It's going to be a little longer, but I want you to especially show the rewrite. Now, of course, go ahead and write the directions, whatever the directions are. If they give you a problem of -1 subtract 10, I would expect you to write that as your problem. Your work would be rewriting it into adding the opposite, and then your answer, whatever your answer is. Problem, work, answer, problem, work, answer. Make sure to show that rewriting, at least for now, until you gain that trust in yourself and me gaining the trust in you. All right, folks, take care. That's all I got. Do well, and let's grow.